Hey, folks, welcome back to the second episode on this three-part series on how to upgrade your mindset. Just to give you a quick recap, mindset is one of the most critical factors when it comes to performing better, achieving more, and being more fulfilled in life. It impacts you in such a high degree, and it's probably the top factor for someone showing up and getting the things that they want in life. So if you want to perform better, if you want to get the things that you want in life, if you just want to just feel better in general, having a mindset is the top factor there. And in the previous episodes, I talked about the three main buckets of how to change or upgrade your mindset. The first one is the psychological, which we covered in a previous video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the philosophical bucket of your mindset. And then going forward, there's going to be the biological bucket of your mindset. And mindset is simply your way of thinking. That's all it is. And if you have an empowering mindset, which enables you to get to your goals, you're going to be a lot better off than having a disempowering mindset. And the only difference is whether your mindset enables you to get to your goals or it doesn't, or it slows you down or stops you. So let's just jump right into the philosophical bucket. The philosophical bucket is basically having a deeper knowledge and exploration of your own mindset. That's all it is. It's different than the psychological bucket because the psychological bucket is really the constructs of the mind. By having a mind, by having a brain, you have a mind. And by having a mind, you automatically come along with these constructs. The philosophical bucket is it's a little bit different, where it's having deeper knowledge and exploration, and it really stemmed thousands of years ago, primarily, obviously in Asia, but also during Greek times, during Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, some of the founding fathers, you can say, of philosophy, where they started to take a look at how people behaved and how they thought based on having deeper knowledge and exploring their own mindset. And so those are the things that we're going to talk about here today, primarily around these multiple different areas, such as meaning, questions, language, perspective, perception, filters, and also what we call power principles. So let's start off with the first one, which is, and they're in no particular order, by the way. And these are, you can say, 7 different elements of the philosophical aspects of your mind. So the first one is meaning. And as a human being, we always give meaning to something. So the question you have to ask yourself is, whatever situation is in front of you, what meaning are you giving it? Are you giving it an empowering meaning? So for example, someone comes in and says, hey, look, we just lost our biggest client. You can either give it a meaning to say, holy crow, this is going to tank our business, or you can give it a meaning to say, hey, look, we got to do things differently. And this gives us an opportunity, a big opportunity and catalyst to do things differently. The situation is the exact same, right? Nothing changes factually, but the meaning you give to the circumstance or the situation changes, and the meaning has a significant impact on how you approach the situation. So meaning is the first one. The second one is questions. So by having a mind, you also have questions, and you're constantly asking yourself questions, not necessarily verbally, but up here in your own mind. You are consciously and unconsciously asking yourself questions all the time. So the quality of questions you ask yourself has an impact on your mindset. So if you are asking empowering questions, for example, in that particular situation where you've lost your biggest client, you can ask yourself the question, well, what am I going to do now? What failure is this going to lead to in my life? Or you can ask yourself the question, how can I change things? How can I improve things? How do I get better? How do I make my business better as a result of this? So the quality of your questions absolutely has an impact on your mindset. So you got to get better at having better quality questions. The third element is language. And language is basically how you speak. So if you're using empowering language, you're going to have an empowering mindset. If you're using disempowering language, you're more likely to have a disempowering mindset. This is something that it took me a lot of discipline to figure this part out, because sometimes I just wanted to say things based on my gut reaction. But when I started to realize how to be more mindful in my language, how to be more conscious in my language, my mindset also started to shift as well. So that's why I'm very careful in terms of what I say. Sometimes I say things that I'm not 100% proud of, right? There might be a swear word come out here or there. But for most cases, I'm very conscious and aware of my language, because I know it's going to come back and impact my mindset, because I am the person that listens to myself the most. So whenever I say something, my brain is automatically impacted the most as a result of that. So language is very, very critical. Perspective is another element. And perspective is simply this: it's the angle or the direction from which you see things, hear things, touch things, taste things, right? Where you're getting your sensory information from. It's the angle. So the example I like to use is if you and I were sitting across the table, a table, and there was a cup in the middle, if the angle that you are seeing the cup from is completely different than the angle that I'm seeing the cup from. And so there might be something on your side, something written on the cup or a mug or an illustration or a picture or whatever it might be that I'm not able to see. Therefore, my perspective is going to be different. And vice versa, there might be something on my side of the cup that you're not able to see. So the whole thing when it comes to your mindset is to identify what perspective you have. And do you have more of a holistic perspective or a complete perspective or an incomplete perspective or fractional perspective? Because a lot of times we act or we respond or we have a mindset based on stuff that we haven't fully gotten a picture from or gotten a holistic picture on. So if we are basing things on a, you could say, fragmented perspective, that's absolutely going to impact our mindset. So I always recommend taking a look at it from a holistic perspective. How can you actually change the angle from which you see things so you can actually get more information? Which leads to the next part, which is perception. And perception is your interpretation of the sensory information that you get. Because once your eyes take in information, turn it into an electrical signal that then your mind interprets along with your taste, your touch, your smell, your hearing, all the five senses that you have. And what it does is it creates a perception. Now, that perception is also based on internal bias. It's also based on previous experiences. So we have to be very, very conscious and aware of the perceptions that we have because our perceptions are not always realistic. They are influenced by past experiences and the internal biases that we have. So if we are more cognizant about our perceptions and conscious of, and mindful about our perceptions, we can actually change our perceptions. And that's the whole thing here. Because if your perception isn't empowering you, then you have to shift it to empower you in some way, shape, or form. And that comes in and is very tied to what we call mental filters. Mental filters are these elements that shape your perception, right? So once information is taken in from your brain, you have these filters. Again, these filters could be from prior experiences or they could be more conscious. And that's the way I want you to think about these filters. What are the conscious filters that are you are using to perceive the information or to interpret the information? So you could be a person who is more optimistic, where you say, this is a mental filter I'm going to use. I'm always going to be optimistic about the things that come my way. So whenever I see something, I'm going to use an optimistic lens to filter that information. Or I'm going to look at it from a joyful perspective. And that, some people don't like that because they seem to think that that is just fooling yourself. That's not being accurate. No, that's not necessarily the case because the information that you are taking in is the information that you're taking in. So whatever you see is what you see. However, how you interpret it is based on you, however you choose to interpret it. Because some people will see things, will experience the exact same thing, and they'll walk away with I'll just say a crappy mindset. And some people will see things and they'll walk away with a great mindset, an empowering mindset. It really depends on what your goal is. And I want you to come back to this. Your mindset is simply, it's binary. Either it's empowering you to get to your goals or it's disempowering you. That's it. There is no in between. So your filters enable you to perceive things differently. Then you have the last element, which is power principles. And these are similar to filters, but they're a lot more impactful. They're a lot more conscious. They're statements, right? They're statements that you have created for yourself to follow, right? These are principles. These are guidelines, right? So just like any other guidelines, you want to follow them. You want to be consciously aware of them. And they're kind of like your barriers as well. They're there not only to enhance your mindset, but also to protect your mindset. For example, one of my power principles is that for every challenge I come across, regardless of whether it's big or small, I'm going to double my power and my energy and expand. So, what does that mean? That means that every time I come against a certain challenge or a situation, I automatically think to myself, I got to double up on my energy and I got to double up on my power and I got to expand rather than contract. which most people do when they come up against a challenge or a problem, I have to expand. And the bigger I expand, the more likely I am to overcome that challenge. So it's not that I don't, I'm perfect where I feel amazing all the time based on the challenges, but I consciously approach things differently based on my power principles. So I recommend that you have 3 power principles in life for yourself, not necessarily 10, not 20, not 15, but at least 3, maximum 5 that you follow on a consistent basis. This will enable you to empower your mindset. So let's just sum it up here. To upgrade your mindset, there are 3 main areas, 3 main buckets. You got the psychological, which we covered in a previous video. You have the philosophical, which I just covered today. And then you have the biological, which I will cover in a future episode. And for the philosophical bucket, there are 7 particular elements. There is meaning, there are questions, there are language, there's perspective, there's perception, then there's mental filters, and then there are power principles. Those are the 7 things that you can put in place today and work on going forward to upgrade your mindset dramatically. And once you upgrade your mindset dramatically, things are going to change. You're going to perform better. You're going to be more productive. You're going to achieve more things in your life. And you're ultimately going to be more fulfilled and happier. And people around you are also going to experience that as well. So that's how you upgrade your mindset.